All right, Jonathan, welcome to Mint. How you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking, Adam. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me on the show.
yeah, of course. I've been wanting to have you on for some time. You guys are building some really, really cool tools at Mintgate. So I'm excited to kind of like deep dive and see kind of what's going on in your ecosystem and how you think of the future of token gated content. So let's just like get started, okay? Give me a quick background about yourself. What were you doing before crypto, and kind of like where are you now?
Before crypto, I worked in a variety of different industries. I worked in online gaming for a variety of time. I built everything from massively online multiplayer games to um, uh, mobile games, um, and then coming out from that, I worked in a variety of different fintech startups, getting myself familiar with different financial technology. But one of the things that really resonated with me, particularly working at Adobe, was building building tooling that helps creators um, create a community around their content. One of the things I really learned, like working with a Photoshop team and a Dreamweaver team, is a lot of the successful new creators that we were helping at that time were really getting themselves bootstrapped by building a community around their artwork or around the videos that they were creating. So this led up until about uh, maybe 3 years now. I went to ETH Denver and was able to witness what was happening within the crypto space for all these DAOs that were starting. And to me, this was the big light bulb that just kind of went off in my head. Like DAOs can change the world and how they operate. They allow communities to self-organize their resources together and actually build a community around the value production that the community is producing. So this is kind of like the context that brought me originally into crypto.
Got it. Got it. You come from an interesting background, clearly having worked with creators and building specific tools for creative creators, right? Creators could be classified as people who play sports, musicians. It's creators is a very big general term. When you're building tools at Midgate, how do you guys define creators? What does that look like from your point of view?
That's a very complicated question because there's so many different types of creators on Mintgate today. We have video creators, we have music creators, we have people doing like machine learning models and like token gating, like very specific tuned machine learning data on Mintgate. There's such a wide variety of different tooling that we're seeing with different types of creators. In fact, I'm kind of hard pressed to tell you what's the main type of creator on Mintgate today because it is so diverse. Um, this technology to leverage crypto to fuel creating a creator economy around their value production has really lent itself to any kind of creator that can get bootstrapped. Um, One thing that we see that's uh, I think out of all these categories, the most popular one that we're seeing is video content. Creators video creators looking at NFTs, seeing how much value is being generated around artists with NFTs, and looking to take that same step of how can I take my video content and transform that into a NFT that users can buy and then gain access to my content, as well as opening up the door to allow those tokens to be resold. And I'll talk more about that later.
Sure, sure. I think what's interesting behind this like whole point of view of token gated content is it's very would you say it's industry specific, right? For example, like if you were to create token gated music, and we'll talk more about that, like deep dive in the use cases, but one would argue that music is supposed to be enjoyed by the masses, right? So creating token gated walls around music consumption, would that be a good use case, for example, for Mintgate or for creators? Like how do you kind of view that? How do you differentiate what's supposed to be token gated versus not?
I think we're still figuring that out. Honestly, the industry is really, really young around token gating. A lot of the creators that we've talked to who've been in crypto for the last like 5 years, who are just starting to leverage token gating, are still kind of going through this journey of figuring out what that means to release some content that might that you just buy the NFT, and this NFT represents like my social signal that I have bought and claimed your artwork, versus exclusive content that in order to actually view and enjoy this piece of entertainment, you need to buy, and then that gives you exclusive access to watch or to download or to see some a set of like behind the scenes makings of. Backing up a bit, one of the things that we saw that's kind of interesting is a lot of artists taking their NFTs and recording a behind the scenes video of them making the NFT and then releasing that on Mintgate, so that when you buy that piece of NFT artwork, you alone are then able to watch the behind the scenes makings of that NFT, or at least that set of NFTs in the collection. Only those users are able to see the behind the scenes content.
Got it. You know, when you got started in crypto, because right now obviously we're seeing like a pivotal moment for DAOs, like you name dropped, right? 2020, August 2020 was DeFi, right? And then post DeFi we had NFTs. Now we're having DAOs, and now NFTs are kind of having like their snowball effect once again, right? When you guys were kind of building out the initial version of Mintgate, how did you kind of discover product market fit at the time? Were there already initial use cases that you kind of that you saw and that you got inspired by, that you realized, okay, they weren't doing something right, that you guys could come in and kind of improve? Like, talk to me more about that process of finding that product market fit.
Well, we worked with a lot of users that expressed that they wanted to take their token. Like we worked with Harrison First to actually token gate his entire website, which has a variety of different music and media that he posts related to his music creation. And it's that we worked with users like Harrison First to develop a set of technologies that lends itself to being very simple and straightforward to take any kind of token on any token type, and being able to take any type of online content and token gating it. The way that we have specifically tried to build Mintgate is to be universal from the start. You know, a lot of startups that's happening in crypto, they'll take a very narrow vertical, like, you know, we're just going to do music NFTs, or we're just going to do video NFTs, or we're just going to do such and such. But we've tried to kind of position ourselves to be more like the Cloudflare of crypto, or the Bitly of crypto, where we built this universal technology that allows you that functionally to take any kind of token on any of the blockchains that we support today, which we support nearly 70 different blockchains, and gate any kind of internet resource. You know, any type of digital bits that can be streamed. We have a general purpose internet gateway that allows to relay and proxy that data to the end user. So in our early stages, going back working with users, we were seeking out users that simply wanted to bring value to the tokens that they were already minting, and working with a handful of them to bring utility to those tokens. Because that's where we saw the opportunity when we started Mintgate 12 months ago, was that there was a lot of creators creating their own token, but not being able to do anything with their own token. Like,
Right.
the token, but like, what can you do with that token? You know, and we wanted to provide this kind of universal drop-in engine for these creators, where they can take however they want to monetize their content effectively. They have a completely flexible engine to monetize their way, and however they want.
Yeah.
Whatever token they're using.
Yeah, when I have creators on Mint, And I kind of talk to them, how do they think about utility and value, and what's that framework that they use? Many times people are still trying to figure that out, right? Right. People go through the process of issuing a token, right? Going public, right? And putting themselves out there so that people can reap rewards and publicly speculate on them, whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the utility behind that token and what kind of value you can create around that token for your community. And I think many times when I talk with creators, they're still confused about the differences as to how they should be thinking about social tokens and NFTs, right? And from your point of view, when a creator comes to you and asks you that, how do you answer that? Especially in the context of Mintgate, because technically you could create token gated content both with social tokens and NFTs. So when you
Right.
when you talk with these creators, how do you kind of explain to them the difference as to what they should be using what for?
So, one is, again, I hate to give this as a general answer, but like this industry is so young, we're still figuring this stuff out. Where we use social tokens and where we use NFTs is um, still being experimented on. Which one is a better medium? What I currently see, and then what we built with Mintgate is to support both. So you can token gate videos and music with either, or you can token gate a video with both an ERC20 and an NFT or a set of NFTs. So you can mix and match however you need it. Where you would use one or the other between social tokens and NFTs is a really complicated question. On one hand, NFTs lend themselves as being a convenient and elegant solution as a alternative to tickets. So if you buy, an NFT can represent my access pass to a piece of content or a set of content or a tier of content. This is kind of similar to Patreon, where you buy into a certain model, a certain tier and a creator, and then you just gain access to all that content that's in that tier. Social tokens have a bit of a more, are almost like NFT, even though social tokens came about earlier than NFTs, they have more flexibility to them in that they can be divided and fractionalized, but it is more complexity to work with social tokens. You have to think about, there's complexity in just the conceptual model of no longer having just this idea in the end user's mind that if I have this NFT, I gain access to this video. With social tokens, you now have to have this abstraction between amounts and what that amount grants you access to.
Sure.
Right? And like this seems trivial, but to the end user that has to go out and acquire these tokens in order to gain access to the content, there's this ambiguity of like, all right, well, I suddenly clicked on this link and I was thrown to some website to swap tokens to access your content. Wait, how many tokens do I need to access this video? Like, I have to go back and check, like, oh, I need 37 tokens to access this video, right? NFTs have a much simpler story of like, okay, I just need one of these and then I get access.
Yeah.
The second thing about the complexity between the two is the legal complexity, particularly in the United States. There's much more, I guess, legal scrutiny over social tokens than there is for NFTs, as NFTs have more of a are more easily defined as being utility tools, while social tokens can be looked at as a security. And again, like,
but there could also be overlap, and we're not lawyer experts, right? We're not
I'm not a
securities
lawyer. I'm
experts,
not
right?
providing legal advice.
This
Yeah,
is
don't take
right.
it
This
from
is
me.
not and this is not intended to be legal advice, but this is just referencing examples probably from things that you've seen, right? The way I like to think about it personally is NFTs act as membership badges, or like the entry level funnel, right, of getting someone in your community, right? If we're talking like a triangle right now, NFTs are like the gateway of or membership pass to that community. And then once you're in that community, you can earn rewards for participation via the community's currency, the utility currency of a social token, right? Depending on how much you engage, what events you attend, which could also be distributed via POAPs too, right? This proof of attendance protocol. But
Right.
I like to think of social tokens as a community's currency and the NFT as the membership gateway into that community, right? A perfect example like that I like to think about and I've yet to see happen on a mainstream level is, there's this artist who passed away but has a huge following. His name is Juice World. He started off on SoundCloud. He built up a crazy cult-like following, a very niche type of following early on SoundCloud. And people used to brag that they were listeners of Juice World before Juice World became Juice World, right? And
The original
imagine it.
hipster, the Juice World hipsters.
Yeah, exactly. And like, imagine if you could solidify and prove that you are an original listener, top 1,000 listener, and then top 10,000 listener bracket, top million bracket, right? And you could verify that through membership NFT badges, right? That kind of like signify and resemble your level of commitment into that community before that community became that community, right? And then once they're in that community, imagine if Juice World were to launch the Juice social token, right? And as you kind of like further participate and engage in specific albums, concerts, you get airdrop tokens as a form of points that you can then spend in the Juice World ecosystem. Like, that's how I like to think about it. Would you agree? Would you disagree? What do you think?
No, I think that is it seems like that's how things are shaking out right now in the ecosystem. I agree with that. Um, that that seems like the natural overlay of these concepts. Like starting with NFTs makes things simpler because NFTs can act as general labels. Like you were here from the beginning, so here's your NFT that gives you the status of you were here from the beginning, right? And I think whenever you're a new community and you're starting a community, ultimately what people are concerned about is just the simple status of being in a community. Like, were you an original member or not? Did you participate in some meaningful way? Did you help this community in some meaningful way?
Right.
Here's a badge for that. These are important signals that help bind a community together. And I think as a DAO and these crypto communities mature, overlaying on top of these labels a social token, where then you could have these points for good behavior or idealized behavior that's aligned to the DAO or the community, can then lend itself to then having your own economy within that community.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Another thing I want to clarify and get your point of view on is, how do you kind of think about token-based content versus token-gated content? For example, more recent current event is there's this rapper, his name is Tory Lanez. He just released an album as an NFT. He did 1 million NFTs for $1 each. And whoever bought that NFT could get access to his album, right? So I like think about that as like token-based content. But then on the other hand, he could also create token-gated content from that, right? How do you kind of think about that in terms of a use case point of view?
Can you give me an example of the token-based content, just so I
Yeah,
have a clear understanding?
yeah, for sure. And I might just be making up words. I'm just picking up things that I'm seeing on crypto Twitter, online, whatever it may be, right? But I'll give you another example, another record that came out, the Kings of Leon NFT album,
Yeah.
right? That's like a token-based content, right? That's a token attached to an album, a series of songs in a certain order, right? That people can consume and enjoy. But then people who own the Kings of Leon NFT album, this token-based content, can now create token-gated content around it, right? Token-gated instead, like, so many different buzzwords. How do you kind of think about it beyond music albums, for example.
It's wild. I mean, these are the things that, like, I dream about because it's really wild. I mean,
You
it
have some
really is. It's
interesting
like
dreams.
I dream in tokens. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think right now it's like we think there's so much happening in the space right now, but I mean, where you could really go with all these tools is almost like imagination's the limit. Like the fact that like Kings of Leon could release an album that um, only a certain number of these NFTs are produced, and buying these NFTs allows you to say, well, I own, the cover image of Forbes magazine, or the album
Right.
of Kings of Leon. But then you could take those NFTs and add token gated content to that NFT without the permission of the original creator of that NFT. And this gets into like a very strange situation where you could, a creator creates an NFT to represent um, an element of their community that you're buying into to social signal. But then that NFT could actually, because whoever owns that NFT could then add additional token gated content to that NFT. The NFT itself kind of takes on its own life. It could take on its own community. People could use that NFT then to token gate a forum where only other people with that NFT are able to communicate and have their own social network amongst each other. So you can imagine, the top fans of Kings of Leon are able to come together and share content, maybe even communicate with members of the band through these private channels. It really leads to what we call, like, what we've seen in like the Web 2 space, where we say that there's these network effects. But this is a whole other level. Like, this is like network effects on top of network effects. I'm really excited to see what this time next year is going to look like for social networks that are based around tokens, particularly NFTs. I think social tokens will still be more towards point systems within that become economies for large communities. But I think NFTs are here to stay for the long run. Like, I don't think NFTs are a fad. They're going to fade out and then transform into something else. I think NFTs are a really pivotal piece of technology for that represents a sort of like membership or a concrete asset of some kind that's held by a community.
What's up, guys? Adam Levy here. Sorry for the quick pause, but I want to give some love to our 5 NFT sponsors who are making this episode happen. They are Coinvise, POAP, Cello, Social Stack, and PrimeDAO. First off, on Coinvise, you can create a personal or community-owned social token on Ethereum. Coinvise also helps you create incentives through token rewards and bounties, NFT business models, and bot integrations for Discord. Discover more by visiting coinvise.co today. Next up, we have POAP, or short for Proof of Attendance Protocol, who enables a novel way of creating one's life diary. Leveraging NFT technology, POAP facilitates an easy way to mint non-fungible tokens related to meaningful events. It's frequently used in crypto-native communities, and now it's starting to create NFT collectors in the mainstream too. Collect or launch your own POAP today by visiting poap.xyz. Next up, we have Social Stack, a platform for communities, brands, and creators to build mission-driven social token economies. Offering an easy-to-use, non-custodial wallet with a suite of open-source community engagement tools, Social Stack makes it simple to bring your community into Web3 and be a part of creating an open-source, gratitude-driven future for social tokens. Create a free social token wallet, discover mission-driven social token communities, or apply to launch your own token on Social Stack by visiting socialstack.co today. Next up, we have Cello. Are you looking for an ecosystem of dApps, currencies, and tokens that can connect you with people no matter their device, carrier, or country? Well, say hello to Cello, a mobile-first platform that makes crypto dApps and payments accessible to anyone with a mobile phone. Celo supports thousands of projects from builders, developers, and artists who every day build applications and issue tokens from all over the world. Visit celo.org today to learn more. And last but not least, we have Prime DAO, a collective of DeFi builders and DAO veterans attempting to turn DeFi into a more cooperative ecosystem by creating DAO-to-DAO interactions. The first solution to go live is Prime Launch, a launchpad experience for DAOs built in collaboration with Balancer. If you plan on launching a DAO, head over to prime.xyz to access a network of partners and tools that will jumpstart your DAO development today. All right, back to the episode. One of the most exciting examples that I've come across, you brought him up earlier, Harrison First, the songwriter and producer who created the audio library for NFT artists who know how to produce the art but need help with the music to accompany their art, right? So he created this token gated audio library. If you hold first, you get access to a library of different tunes that you can then download and use copyright free and for your pleasure. So that's a really exciting example. We also highlighted that again on season 1. And you're seeing more and more of these like use cases kind of pop up and appear and gain some traction and experimentation done. But it's still obviously not mainstream just yet. Like the more mainstream, right? Obviously, right? But the more mainstream,
whatever the opposite of mainstream is, that's where we're at right now.
But what do you think is stifling the adoption of token gated content? And I only bring this up because you see platforms like OnlyFans creating subscription based content that's technically like gated without the token, right? You're seeing Subify help creators better monetize their Instagram based content. Have you heard of Subify?
No, I haven't.
Subify is basically like a subscription service that creators use and bring their fans onto. So for example, Logan Paul has his Maverick Club on there. His fans pay, I think, anywhere between $10 to $20 per month. And he makes really good money from that monthly by creating unique content for his audience. So rather than just post it for free online and have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat kind of take advantage of that, for their own benefit, he creates gated content around that, right? Another similar example comes up with Jake Paul and using his close friends list as like, you pay me per month, right? And you get added to my close friends list on Instagram, and you get to see that unique content that my main Instagram story followers don't get to see. So there's obviously like demand for this stuff, right? There's obviously a need for this. What do you think are the biggest challenges right now, kind of stifling the token adoption side of it?
Well, there's many dimensions to this. One is there's a lot of incentive for solutions that are outside of crypto, mainly because Subify can be financially either invested in by different creators or investors that have their own network that they can leverage to bring on board other creators. It's challenging starting out in crypto and building a startup in crypto because you're inherently saying, we're going to build a platform that's primarily gives control to the creator. At the end of the day, what my aim is with Mintgate is to develop us into a form of a protocol where we're an open standards technology. That's my objective. This is very difficult to get off the ground from the get-go because companies like Subify are basically the same model as Instagram. It's the same structure as all these existing social networks. That eventually Subify is going to get to a certain level where the relationship is no longer in favor of creators. So the hard challenge is trying to get ahead of that and building a system that works on crypto and decentralizes the technology as maximally as you can, so that creators ultimately have control over their audience. Another challenge outside of like the business landscape, there's just a challenge of crypto still being very young for creators. The DeFi landscape is massive, but for creators, coming in, creating their own a token is still such a new, novel concept. Again, I've talked to people that have been in DeFi for like since the beginning of DeFi that are creators, and it's still really strange for them to think to conceptualize what it looks like to generate value through issuing NFTs that gates private content. It's just a new model that is, like NFTs didn't take off the moment they were invented. It took someone to show it by example in the marketplace that and had a certain level of traction before you could prove to the market that this is a way that creators can sustainably generate value. This is a way that art creators can sustainably generate lots. I mean, now you look at like how much money people are actually making off of NFTs, and it's incredible. But you only go back 12, maybe 14 months ago, and it was unthinkable that like NFTs could generate the market size as it is today.
Right.
I think really the challenge is just the lack of initial momentum, right? That we're starting out here building up the snowball effect, and it gets a little easier day by day, but it's just a lot of effort that you got to put into it.
Yeah. You bring up a great example is when, and if I'm not mistaken, the Dapper Labs team created the ERC 721 standard, right? And brought those examples to life, right? Or if they didn't create it, they had a big hand in bringing it to life at least. And the first example being CryptoKitties, everybody knows CryptoKitties. A lot of the normies that kind of got involved in Bitcoin in 2017 also got their first interactions with NFTs through CryptoKitties. And that was that example that I feel like sparked a lot of inspiration and innovation, at least for me personally, right? And I'm sure for many others. And all these profile pictures that you see from penguins to Bored Apes to punks, et cetera, right? And now people going ham online purchasing these things. I think yesterday OpenSea had $500 million in revenue or something like that, like in one day.
It's unimaginable. And again, before Crypto Kittens, it was unimaginable that ERC 721s were going to be this massive industry boom, right? Like I talked to people at inside the crypto conferences. And so what I'm trying to convey is, if people in the industry that are working on this technology that helped contribute to the ERC 721s couldn't even imagine how valuable of a technology it could be to creators. Creators only have that much more difficulty conceptualizing the use of the technology to empower their content creation. You see what I'm saying? Like it's like selling a creator to use the internet before even the people laying out the internet lines know that the internet is valuable.
Yeah.
So a lot of our challenge really is just the process of making connections out to creators, working with them, and kind of handholding them through the process of thinking about how to take the content that they're creating and building an economy around it. That run some experiments where you release this amount of content free and open, but you need these NFTs to access content that requires this amount of effort and work that you put into that content in order to access it. And it's finding that balance between the effort it takes to put it into the creative medium that is going to require the use of token gating to drive value to that token sales, so that ultimately the creator gets compensated for their hard labor that goes into some digital medium.
Sure. Obviously you speak about this stuff very, very passionately. Like I see the fire in your eyes, And you obviously, from what I'm picking up, is you have this clear vision of what you want this to become, right? What you imagine this becoming. Can you share with me, paint me that picture? What does that look like from your point of view? The future of token gated content. How do you imagine that kind of unfolding 5 to 10 years from now?
Well, 5 years, I have no idea in 5 years. Good Lord. But I could say maybe in a year or two from now, I can tell you what's going to happen because things are
Okay.
changing. Things change quickly. So like, I imagine that in the next year or two, um, private access, unlockable access to content is going to become as ubiquitous as NFTs are today. We're going to see video creators saying, why should I give my cut to YouTube? Why, if I can bring my audience directly to my own website or my own Twitter feed or Instagram, whatever medium that they're using, and be able to market and sell my content directly to my audience. Um, that's the route that makes me feel like I have more of a connection with my end users, and two, it allows users to, um, part of this big vision, and I haven't really touched on this yet, is I believe that token royalties are going to play a huge factor in rebooting the creator economy. And this is one of the features that we have uh, launched with our platform, is that any NFT that you mint on Mintgate, you define your own royalties on that token. That means that anyone that buys that token, you get the sale from it. But if that user decides to turn around and resell that token to another marketplace, you as the creator always receive that royalty that you set on the token. So as a creator, you get to kind of tune your economy. If you turn up the royalties too high, users may not be incentivized to turn around and shill your content and resell your content. And as an early creator, you have a high incentive to incentivize your audience to buy your NFTs, to buy your access passes to your content, and act as your representative to the greater community to sell those access passes. You are basically crowdsourcing the outreach to your closest fans. That's the big idea here. I think ultimately, like, why use tokens for any of this stuff? Like, why not
Right.
just sell your content on YouTube? Why not just sell your content on Patreon? Why use tokens? And I think royalties is really the biggest reason to use crypto as a for monetization, because it allows you to always be part of the value production of the access passes to your content. And because they're limited in edition, you can always you can let the market price your token for the value of your content, which is just, it's, in a way, it's like hyper capitalism. It's taking the best elements of like market dynamics, which is this price point discovery, and baking that into your, as a content creator, into how you're delivering your content to your end users.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, here's another crazy idea I think I thought about. Is like, as a content creator, you could give out your access tokens for free to your closest fans, and say, all right, you're my closest fans. You get access to my premium content, and because you're the OGs. You've been with me since the very beginning. You just get access, and I'm going to rely on you to resell my access tokens and to be my ambassadors as a creator to sell my content. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No. It makes a lot of sense. Like from you're preaching to the choir here, right? Like you're actually preaching to the choir. But the reality is, a lot of these creators still don't understand what Bitcoin and Ethereum is, let alone social tokens, and
yeah,
let alone launching their own currencies, let alone they just see NFTs as art that people are spending a lot of money for online, right? And they lack, or many of them lack, the rationale as to what this could become for their own creator community. And I think that comes with time. I think that comes with education. I think that comes with experience and tinkering and experimentation. And I think definitely in a few years from now, it's going to get much better. Like, you can obviously argue that with time, as technology gets better and these softwares and these tools that require creator onboarding and user onboarding, they improve, right? The user onboarding for MetaMask has drastically improved, I'd argue, since when I got started in 2017, right? And opening up a Coinbase, like all these things, they come with progress. So I think definitely down the line, for sure, I agree with your vision. And let's kind of talk about the other side of that. What do you think would prevent that from becoming a reality?
Well, maybe just to touch on your point on like still how young this industry is. I was talking to I'm out here in Los Angeles, and I was talking to a video creator, a very prominent video creator in Beverly Hills, and they were telling me that they own, they own Ethereum, they own Bitcoin, they bought into Matic. They're very savvy crypto users, and they produce video content. And I was talking to them about NFTs, and they told me that they just don't understand NFTs. Like, what's the point? Like, to them, like, what's the point in NFTs? It seems like there's a lot of noise, and they and this piece of feedback was really interesting to me, because it's like, here's someone that's in crypto. They actively trade in crypto. They're a content producer. They're active in the community, and yet they don't even understand what NFTs could be used for as a way for just selling artwork, right? Like, so we're very much at like this kind of very new bleeding edge side of the market that still has a long ways to go to raise awareness over what tokens can do for content creators. Okay, so going back to your question was,
No,
what's
hold on.
hindering the
I
market?
think I think that's a good point. Hold on. Let's touch upon that for a second before I jump into my question. So they're obviously active crypto users. They're holding, they're investing. They're also more Web 2.5 native users from their video content point of view. But again, that goes back to our like initial point in the discussion. Like, we're still waiting for that crypto kitties moment for the creator economy and the convergence of Web 3, right? For people to realize what it means for them, right? So I still think we're waiting for that crypto kitties moment. I think it will come within the next year or two, that people like your friend from Beverly Hills who creates video content will realize, okay, wait a minute, this person's doing X, Y, and Z. It's pretty relatable to my community. I can kind of integrate this somehow. And yeah, I think with time, it's obviously going to get better. But back to my question, right? You painted your vision of what this could become in 1 year or 2 years, right? I guess my question was like, what would prevent that from happening? What barriers would be in place that would, yeah, what would like prevent that from happening essentially?
Well, I think a very topical point is regulation. If new regulation gets put into place that is too heavy-handed on the industry, where it would basically hamper the user experience of such platforms. One of the things I'm concerned about is if regulation will come down to require every NFT marketplace to do a KYC application on every single user that wants to buy a $1 NFT. That is greatly concerning to me. Now, what it currently looks like, and this is changing day by day, at least here in the U.S., is it seems like the regulation is leaning towards only requiring KYC up until a certain dollar amount before that KYC process is required. But again, it's still kind of too early to see how this shakes out in Washington. So that's a big factor. Regulations is a huge factor, and I think, and what are regulations there for? Right? Regulations there are ultimately to protect users. In the best spirit of the law, to protect users from scams, online scams, user scams, and any abusive behavior that might take value from end users. And I think that's another thing that could slow down this trend, is if we start seeing, other startups happening that are looking to do scammy things with NFTs. Even if regulations are moderate when they're rolled out, if there's a lot of bad actors that come into the market and start giving NFTs and crypto a bad name because they're doing user abusive behaviors, that will also slow down the rate in which users feel comfortable with buying an NFT of their favorite artist. That's another.
Yeah. I think on your point of regulation, in coming back to the use case that you said you were particularly excited about, is the royalty element, right? Right now, in many cases, that's still considered a security, right? Music royalties or movie royalties or whatever it may be, type of royalties that kind of get distributed back to the end user based off if they own an NFT or a social token of a specific individual or group, whatever it may be. You're right. That regulatory landscape, I feel like, would definitely stifle further adoption, further interaction, because obviously nobody wants to mess around with the SEC, because chances are that if a top creator were to kind of experiment, they'd make an example out of them, right? And they'd use them as like they did in 2017, for example, when DJ Khaled was promoting ICOs and he got attacked by the SEC and they sued him and he got a penalty along with many others. So
I remember that.
Yeah, we'll see where it kind of goes. But I think that's a perfect place to end off, Jonathan. But before I let you go, give me a quick shout out. Where can we find you? Where can we learn more about Mintgate and all the great things that you guys are doing?
Wonderful. Well, Adam, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure connecting with you and your community. You can find me at Jadbox, JADBOX on Twitter. You can also reach our Mintgate Twitter handle at mintgate_IO, or go to mintgate.io for our main website. And right now we are particularly looking for users that are video creators, looking for a new way of monetizing their videos around NFTs. So if this is something that's interesting to you, please give us a shout out. We'd love to work with you one-on-one to help you be successful with getting into NFTs.
Awesome, Jonathan. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I hope to have you on again soon. And I'm excited to see the development of Mintgate as you guys bring on more content creators, more individuals building token gated communities. So best of luck to you. Thank you.